It was one of those quiet mornings, the kind where the sky still holds the last shade of night and the city hasn't fully woken up yet. The streets were empty, the lamps still glowing gold over wet roads, and the rain just light enough to whisper. That's when I saw him for the first time. A man in a faded blue uniform standing beside a yellow city bus, wiping its windshield. Not rushing, not complaining, just humming softly to himself, like the rain was part of his rhythm. And every morning, right at 6:05, bus number 14 would begin its route. And before a single passenger stepped in, that man, Mr. Harris, smiled. He had this little habit, something so simple that most people wouldn't even notice it. But every morning, when his first passenger stepped in, he'd look up and greet them like they mattered. When the nurse, Maya, climbed aboard after her night shift, he'd say, "Morning, Maya. Another long night?" And she'd laugh softly, because even when she was exhausted, his smile reminded her that someone cared. Then came Leo, a teenage boy always lost in his phone. Harris would grin and say, "Big test today, Leo?" "You've got this," Leo would look up, surprised that anyone even remembered. And there was Mrs. Coleman, an old lady who moved slower than everyone else. He never started the bus until she was seated safely. No one told him to do that. He just did. At first, I thought it was just politeness, but as weeks passed, I began to see something else. The passengers, all strangers, started to change too. The nurse began greeting others. The teen offered his seat to the elderly. People started smiling when they entered the bus. His kindness spread quietly, like a small ripple that reached everyone in its path. Mr. Harris wasn't just driving a bus, he was driving hope into people's mornings. One morning, his supervisor stopped him. He frowned and said, "Harris, you're always 2 minutes late. You talk too much to the passengers." Harris just smiled, that same gentle smile, and said, "Sir, sometimes 2 minutes of kindness can fix someone's whole day." The supervisor didn't reply, but something in his eyes softened, like he understood, even if he couldn't admit it. Then, one evening, the city was hit by a storm. Heavy rain, flooded streets, power lines flickering like dying fireflies. Inside the bus, you could feel the tension. A little boy began to cry. Mrs. Coleman shivered from the cold. Even Maya, usually calm, looked worried. Through it all, Mr. Harris stayed the same, his voice steady, his hands firm on the wheel. "Stay calm, everyone," he said. "We'll get through this together." He stopped the bus for a moment, gave his jacket to Mrs. Coleman, kneeled beside the boy and said, "Remember how we breathe before maths tests? In and out. Just like that." The boy followed, his sobs turning into slow breaths. Maya smiled faintly, helping others stay calm. Even John, the office worker who always looked annoyed, watched in silence, eyes softening. Because in that storm, one man's habit of kindness kept an entire bus full of people human. When they finally reached the terminal, something amazing happened. No one rushed out. They stood there for a while, smiling, helping each other gather their things, and one by one, they thanked him. "Thank you, Mr. Harris. You kept us safe. You made us feel calm." Even John stepped forward, looked at him and said, "I'm sorry for being rude. You're a good man." Harris just smiled, like he always did, and said, "Take care now." A few weeks later, Mr. Harris stepped onto his bus and saw something taped beside his seat. A note, written in neat handwriting. It said, "Thank you, Mr. Harris, for making mornings human." The next day, there were more. Dozens of small notes, some handwritten, some drawn by kids, each one saying the same thing in different words. "Your smile gave me strength. Because of you, I started greeting strangers. Thank you for being kind." He never asked for it. He never expected it. He just smiled. Now, every time I see that yellow bus turn a corner in the morning light, I think about him. Because who we are isn't defined by what we achieve or the titles we hold, but by the little things we do when no one's watching. Our habits, our words, our kindness. Those are the small things that quietly define who we are. And that's why I'll always remember him. Mr. Harris. The bus driver who smiled every morning and taught us all that small habits can change the world.